Welcome to the Stackin Sats podcast presented by Force-Based Mining. I am your host, Plamenko of ASIC. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Austin Childress of ASIC Ninja. Austin is a repair tech and educator in the ASIC industry. In this episode, we discuss basic ASIC repairs, different levels of education within the industry, the vulnerability of Bitcoin, and much more. As always, this is not financial advice. We hope you enjoy this episode with Austin Childress. Super appreciative to have you in the Force-Based Mining studio today. I'm with Austin Childress of ASIC Ninja, traveling nomad, ASIC repair maestro. And yeah, really happy to have you here, Austin. And just wanted to give you a minute to introduce yourself to the audience, kind of let them know about what it is you do in the industry.
Yeah, so I've been in this industry for a few years now, basically doing a lot of ASIC repair. Also been going around doing a lot of consulting and training for a lot of the major facilities, as well as some of the other independents out there. Also ended up becoming a Bitmain lecturer. Was doing that for quite a while until they just sadly recently shut that down. Although good thing is we're still going out there doing a lot of training. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing.
Awesome. No, it's I'm really looking forward to this because you get to spend a lot of time with, a lot of the big players in the industry. You spend a lot of time traveling, and I really do want to get into that. But before we go there, I did want to just ask you kind of about how you got into Bitcoin and, how you got into repairing and where you are today.
Yeah. So, with crypto in general, started a while back, even trading Dogecoin, before it was a penny. I even do remember when I was younger, kind of playing some StarCraft. I remember seeing some of the tournament trophies, the winner would get some Bitcoin. So it's kind of interesting to see how everything's kind of played out. As far as my background, I went to high school and took some computer repair. I did go to college for engineering, though I never really completed it. But did end up taking some robotics class as well while I was there. So I got a little micro soldering practice. Never actually used a heat gun until I started doing ASIC repair. So that was definitely a different learning curve in itself.
That's an understatement. How'd you go from, it seems like, you have a big background into computers, robotics, repairing. How did you specifically get into ASICs?
So after a little time of having some personal stuff that happened, ended up kind of dabbling back in Bitcoin. So I bought some S9s. So I was running those for a little bit. So ended up trying to flash one of the control boards. So with the S9s, you literally have to pull out of the case and flip over a jumper to, flash it. So during that time, I accidentally touched it on the case. I saw a spark, and I knew right then and there that, that control board's probably fried. And, so I started looking around and seeing if, anybody did do repairs or, if there's any info, which there's little to none even out there. So just kind of self-taught myself and started dabbling and doing all the repairs right out of my apartment. Literally had a full-on repair facility going on right out of my apartment complex. So
that's amazing. Did you fix that S9?
Not the control board. Yeah. But,
and then people began to get to know you, and they liked what you were doing. I mean, it seems like, when you do something self-taught, there's a lot more learning curves that you're going through. But at the same time, I feel like you get to kind of find the nuances yourself because you're self-researching, you can be a lot hungrier to find what that answer is. So it seemed like that turned around and did really well for you. And you kind of got yourself the exposure. And like you said, if you were operating an entire repair service out of your apartment, then I'm assuming that you had other people who were sending you their machines.
Yeah, I started getting, doing it more than just a hobby, repairing them for friends and stuff. So I started advertising my services actually on eBay. So I started doing those kind of repairs and kind of got overwhelmed with how much work was available.
Mm-hmm.
So I quickly, knew I needed to build it out and help grow, and basically decided, I was going to help try to train a lot of the new techs in the industry, seeing that there's not many, even available. Yeah, I don't know.
Why'd you pick, you picked like education, a lot of people would have been looking to work for, a company, kind of building a repair shop. Was it just circumstances that you ended up going towards, educating new techs and educating others?
I just kind of saw the whole kind of path of the industry, if you will. I was seeing that, there's not many people that can repair, not many shops that do it. I saw eventually that people are going to start needing to learn how to do this kind of stuff, especially like the big hosting facilities, and I don't know, just like helping out as much as I can and helping people, and just decided to take it and try to help out and train as many people as possible. And I know, especially with just electronic repair in general, there's a huge need for that kind of skill, not only for the Bitcoin industry, but as well as for, your TV has electronics, your radio, your Tesla you're driving. I mean, all this stuff is going to need, technicians that even understand how they work. And just seems that there's a huge lack of technicians right now.
It's funny because as you're talking about the past here, but I feel like we're kind of still stuck in this cyclical loop. We still need a lot of techs. We still need a lot more education in the field. And when you look at, the people who are making ASICs, they're not from America. These are manufactured in China, in Thailand, from engineers and people where English isn't their first language. And it seems like you got to work very closely with those people as well. And I know that you mentioned that you got to do like What's Miner and Antminer, Bitmain repair courses. Just want to know a little bit more about that experience and how you found yourself in that situation.
Yeah, so with Bitmain, I ended up getting my certification over at Core Scientific, actually. Actually also did my online training for the 17s online. Did that in my hotel room at the same time, taking the S19 training in person. For MicroBT, they ended up reaching out to me, seeing some of my videos that I put out on YouTube. So they can kind of see my skill and asked me to get certified, and I helped get my old shop certified to do, or authorized rather, to do warranty repair for MicroBT. So I definitely saw that there was a huge need for this education. It's not really a standard for how you do these operations. Like, where do you start? What's step one? Or, what can you do? What can't you do? If you look at any other field, like electrician is a prime example, you have all these national regulations, codes, and stuff like that. And in this kind of field, there's really nothing, and especially with, working on power supplies, that alone can be really dangerous. So not even having a standard on, proper practice on how you should go about working on them is pretty incredible.
No, that's something I didn't even consider. But yeah, when you're dealing with, that strong of electricity in these machines, there are safety standards, and to kind of just like not even have a way, to like navigate through that just seems like a really dangerous position to put people in.
Yeah, I mean, even just plugging in and unplugging your miners can be dangerous. I'm surprised, a lot of shops out there, they probably don't even have a defibrillator on site. So someone ends up getting shocked.
Oh gosh.
You're going to have to restart their heart. You can be sitting there till the paramedics show up. But,
No, totally. Those are the risks that have to be weighed. What did you think about the micro BT and the Bitmain courses?
I mean, they were good, a little basic. Just trying to get you to show, basic understanding on how to use a test jig, do diagnostic. Fortunately, there's not, too much in-depth kind of information. Pretty much just how you do ASIC placement and how to hook up a test jig, and that was about it. There's so much more that goes into these machines from, just even the start. When you receive the machine, what should you do? You shouldn't just plug it in. There's a lot of other things you should be doing. So,
like what?
I mean, for example, if you don't know where the miner came from, you're going to want to probably flash the firmware with an SD card to make sure, there might be viruses and stuff like that. Make sure you're changing like the pool settings, stuff like that, because you don't know if they have a back door that, when you plug in your miner, it goes to that pool. Well, that pool tells that miner to do this and go to your network and do that. And it's definitely possible.
Wow. You can get that expansive with an ASIC?
Technically.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to consider. If you're getting this machine, even if it's from a trusted source, you definitely want to know, what you're doing. And like you said, to be able to flash the firmware. What about
even doing basic maintenance? Making sure your environment's a key environment for your miners to run in.
So then how did you go from, working on the courses with these manufacturers into kind of developing your own system? It seems like, you're definitely the kind of person where the gears were spinning, things were clicking in your head. And you understood that there was a need for more advanced levels of understanding and then repair. How did it kind of, all come together from there?
I already knew I wanted to do the training even before I became a lecturer for Bitmain. That might have been one of the reasons that helped me get, certified to do so, was that I've already been doing training, that I've been going out and training, individuals and groups of people. So I had that experience doing, that kind of one-on-one training. Does seem like it takes a kind of a knack or, certain type of person to be able to, teach in general. I know a lot of technicians, including myself, are pretty introvert. So trying to get them to get in front of people and explain what they're doing, they don't want to have nothing to do with it. So,
no, totally. I'm thinking of one of our mutual friends, Jurgen. He speaks very highly of you when it comes to being a teacher. So if you needed some affirmation, yeah, there's people out there who speak very highly of how it is that you go about your trainings and education. And it's refreshing because you have different kind of aspects of repair in the industry. You have your standard, repair shop where you're going to send the boards to. You're going to have technicians work on them, diagnose it, try to fix it, and send it back. You have mobile repair where you're going to go travel and you're going to go to places. And then you have these courses where you can spend, a week, 2 weeks, intimately working with someone. What would you say is just the best way to kind of get experience in repairing?
Grab a cheap unit and start practicing, I'd say. Just even to get in like an S9 and tear it apart, rip some heat sinks off, start placing ASICs, mess around with the different components. Definitely reverse engineering is one of the best ways to learn how to do electronics in general. Another way is obviously trying to build your own circuits. You can study a book and stuff like that, but really doing the hands-on stuff is a little different. You can also have a technician that's the best rework technician. He can't figure out what chip to replace, so he's sitting there replacing every component on the board, hoping it fixes it. And then got the other tech who's, really good at diagnosing the board as a whiz, but can't replace an ASIC chip for the life of them. So just kind of that balance, I guess.
Are you looking to kind of develop well-roundedness, out of the people who you're training?
At least give a basic understanding. A lot of people don't realize, there's totally different levels in this that you can do. Whether you're a repair shop, you're a hosting facility, you're a procurement facility that, buys and resells miners. Each one of these can kind of build out, that kind of repair and maintenance line, just depending on their needs. Also think a lot of people don't understand that when they send it out for repair, what exactly is all included. They think that, they're going to wash it. They're going to make it, magically look brand new. But in actuality, what they're probably doing is they're not even dusting it off. They're just finding the component that's broken, redo it. Most of the time, not even clean the flux off that they left, and pop the heat sinks back on and make sure it's hashing and ship it out. You also want to make sure, you're doing your regular maintenance, cleaning your units on a regular basis. If you do have to clean your units on a regular basis, then you want to make sure that your environment's a good environment. So you're going to find that happy median. Same thing with procurement. You just want to get it out the door quickly, or do you want to do a full, thorough job and sell it as a more taken care of, more fully refurbished unit rather than just a quickly refurbished, we got it hashing, it's going to arrive DOA, sorry, but...
Technically, it was working.
Yeah.
What are some kind of environment, potential problems to be mindful of?
Obviously, first would definitely be temperature. A lot of people don't realize that, not only does hot cause an issue, but also cold. Then even that, the electronics themselves, they don't like to go hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. They want to stay as stable of a temperature as possible. So even if you're restarting your miner or you're unplugging it, plugging it, you're cooling it down and then you're heating it back up. And all that heating and cooling is causing expansion and contraction. And over time, all of a sudden, next thing you know, one of your solder joints goes out and you have zero ASIC.
Gotcha.
So having a good stable temperature is ideal. Another one would definitely be particulates in the air. So you want to make sure that, you're filtering all that kind of stuff out. You don't want any kind of corrosives like salt. If you're next to an ocean, you want to make sure that you're doing extra steps to make sure that salt's not getting into your units. Same thing with humidity. So you mix humidity with particulates, you get corrosion. So you want to make sure your humidity is not only too high, but if it gets too low, you're also going to get static. So you want to make sure that you have that kind of Goldilocks zone for these things.
Nice. What about like the introduction of immersion or hydro? Is that going to potentially warrant some of these environmental issues? Or does that just open up a brand new can of worms for that environment?
I'd say it's a little of both for sure. It's a completely different system, so it's like a whole nother animal. Same kind of concepts, instead of a fan, you have a pump. Your fan or your pump goes out, you might end up overheating your unit, and there goes your investment. Especially with some of these other ones, hydro and immersion, even though it's kind of new to the industry, it's actually pretty old when it comes to like electronics. Even immersion was created just for the process of cooling transformers. And they weren't able to necessarily sell it for transformer use because they didn't see, upfront expense versus, savings over time. Government really didn't want to expense it. So they decided to take that over to like data centers. And then now more recently, they're moving it over to crypto.
Is it kind of moving in a pretty similar trajectory as compared to other tech industries?
Yes and no. I see that it's definitely makes it a lot easier to incorporate into regenerative heating, like reusing that heat, taking it and, putting it in your hot water heater. And then now you're taking a, hot Bitcoin shower kind of thing. You can't really do that very easily with air. Yeah, I mean, just really depends. I could create, an air system that's way far superior than your immersion system. If you wanted to, I can create a good enough system that we can take the fans off and it'll just be, forced air. But just kind of got to weigh, cost and the system itself and everything like that.
No, that's interesting. You're in the industry, I'm in the industry. In the past year, I think we both noticed the turn towards Bitmain and these other manufacturers promoting their hydro systems, promoting their systems for immersion cooling. You see a lot of talk about it, but it's way more complicated than that. And, like you're saying, it really depends on what it is you're trying to build out and, what are the challenges you need to address in order to build that out properly. One thing I do think is cool about, like you said, immersion and hydro is that, the ability to take this heat that's being produced and to turn it around into something else, something useful, keeping it cyclical within your own system. Ultimately, that's something I want to see more of just on a smaller scale. I don't know about the feeling of having like 10,000 ASICs blowing in my face, but it seems like it's a little overwhelming, not only for the operations but also for someone who is then going to have to come in and diagnose and fix, and kind of like deal with the mess at hand. Personally, I would like to see more education towards, just someone like me plugging in an S19 and then being able to use it for my heating, being able to use it for my water heater and all that. But I did want to go into your course a little bit. It's proprietary, so we don't have to talk too much about it. But I know that you come up to Milwaukee and you've been working on your beginner course for ASIC repair. I just wanted to give you a little bit of time to kind of share some information on the course and what you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, with this basic course, try to make it so that way, no matter if you're like a beginner, just starting out, or if you're a more advanced technician, trying to learn some more advanced skills or kind of make sure at least the standards that should be there. You can kind of get that grasp of from all the way from when the miner comes in doing consolidation, tearing the unit apart, figuring out if it's the power supply, control board, hash boards, all the way down to figuring out exactly what the issue is, or at least the area of where the issue is, and then just being able to dive in deeper and, do a repair.
Also, like, no pun intended, but create a spark in someone's mind.
Yeah, there's people anywhere from like hobbyists who are, even GPU miners that are looking into doing ASICs, or doing, wanting to get a job in the industry. This could be a great way to come in and at least learn the basic skills. Even after just taking a basic class like that, you have big major facilities that only have one of their technicians go and take a online Bitmain class and say, oh, we're certified. We have all these technicians, but in reality, it's one guy who took an online class. So I'm definitely really big on education. You should go out and try to get as much as you can to try to hone your skills, especially just getting stuck in, your regular routine. Maybe there's some other techniques that you can come and learn to be able to, make that process a little quicker, or at least a little easier on yourself.
What about like mentorship? Once you have someone complete the course, I just feel like they have probably like 1,000 more questions that they want to ask you or someone else who is, skilled in these repairs. How much time do you spend, working with the classmates once the course is over?
It depends on the student. Actually, how I started, as I did a lot of virtual training. I still do a lot of that, where I would do like, up to 5 different sessions. You just call and we do a little either video or voice call and kind of go over different things, make it more, custom tailored to their needs, whether they want to focus on, doing consolidation or working on what's miners or Canon or, whatever their main focus is. So I've been doing a lot of that. And I also include with that a lifetime kind of mentorship. So I have quite a few students that I talk to still on a regular basis. I'm sure they already expensed, all their sessions, but they're still, calling me up and, trying to help them out as best I can. And as a teacher, I get to learn quite a bit as well. So.
No, you definitely do take that time. I can tell that personally. When we had a repair department going on at DLI, Dan would call you a lot and kind of ask for your advice and direction. And I don't think there was a single time where you didn't pick up the phone. So like, props to you, dude. That's not easy. It's not easy to be plugged in 24/7 and to have to, kind of be quote unquote on call. But in my opinion, it really speaks to the passion that you have in all of this. When you're working with like a shop or something, how do you kind of get the people who are the techs who are repairing to kind of like focus into something? Is it like once you learn this board, you can move on to the next? What do you kind of recommend for like a shop and how they would go about their business?
It's more of like a preference, I'd say. I know with my class, I like to teach it more of a broad. So it's not just for Bitmain or Micro BT or Canon or Gold Shell or, Dragon Mint or, InnoSilicon or however many manufacturers are out there. I try to make it more so that way you can take this knowledge and be able to apply it to any of them. So with at least having this basic understanding of how you do ASIC repair, you can go in there and, diagnose it, troubleshoot it, at least get to a certain point where you're like, okay, I know it's this, I know it's that, I've tried this, I've tried that.
What are some of those basic components that that you're generally having to work on?
Well, I mean, just about everything breaks. So, big slew of different things. Of course, different units are a little different. Every board's different. Same thing, like every technician's different. Everybody learns differently. Just, I don't know, trying to get at least a basic standard is what we've been, trying to create. And
What makes that difficult is it seems like it's like a rat race. Like you're trying to repair these machines. They're generally going to be, like the gen before this new one that's come out. The hash rate is going to keep going up for the network. The amount of machines you have to plug in is going to keep going up. This is like an existential crisis within the repair industry. And is it something that you think is like sustainable? Do you think that all these machines are going to get fixed, or do you kind of see it as something that's just going to have to adapt as it goes along?
it definitely has its ebbs and flows. Obviously, a technician has to get paid at least a minimum for what they're doing, so they can't go and work on S1s because it's not going to be worth it. So you just kind of got to weigh, that kind of thing. I don't know.
Long term, you think that?
I don't know. With what I've been seeing, obviously all things end up in the repair shop. So I even talked to some guys who are like, yeah, we came out with this revolutionary, replaces GPU miners, mines Dogecoin or whatever. And it, if one of the ASICs goes out, they'll still be hashing. So it's going to completely make it so it gets rid of your job. But I'm like, okay, well, once 5 ASICs or more go out, I'm pretty sure they're going to want it fixed when it doesn't have full hash rate. So, but as I see, a lot of the newer stuff come in, it just seems like they're trying to stack more and more onto one board. They're trying to get more and more ASICs on there, trying to make it as efficient as possible. And just like anything else, they're just adding more and more breakpoints, more and more failure points. So definitely see that, it might end up coming to the point where a lot of these machines are just going to break, before they even arrive, because there's so many different moving parts with these things now. So
that's something I'm actually like thinking in my head right now. The L7. I feel like a lot of people who got L7s, the hash boards were down before they even plugged it in. Something happened along the way. So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. When you're looking to maximize efficiency, you might not have figured out the best way to protect that piece of technology. Are there some like engineering kind of designs that you know of that manufacturers are working on to, eliminate these breakpoints?
There's just seems like they're trying to make it as efficient as possible. A lot of them switched over already to like the aluminum backboards to try to cool off the board a little quicker, more efficiently. I don't know.
Your guess is as good as the manufacturer's guess, I guess. So you do a lot of traveling. Do you like that, or are you looking to, maybe have a shop yourself?
I do like doing the traveling. When I kind of got presented with this opportunity to do what I'm doing, I was kind of thinking to myself, I do want to do traveling when I'm older. I'm, as young as I am now, going to be, just getting older from here. So might as well take advantage of it while I'm, able to, instead of going around, with a cane trying to go up the steps of the pyramids. At least I can do some traveling now and still get, a career out of it, I guess. And definitely like seeing the new places and just learn a lot for sure.
And you've generally been traveling in the U.S.?
Mostly U.S., some Canada, some Mexico, even went out over to Thailand as well. So
nice. What'd you do out there?
I did some training. So I went out there and actually got my final Bitmain certificate for S19J Pros. Met a good buddy out there as well. So got some new friends and just keep building that team. And
yeah.
As far as building my own shop, I mean, that's kind of been my goal since the beginning. But at the same time, I know I can't do it all myself. So kind of just taking advantage of helping out as many people as possible and still staying independent, which kind of opens me up to be able to go out and help other people. A lot of people like to be as secretive as possible. And I don't know, did see a lot of, during the last bull market, a lot more people were a little more open. You almost saw this, people were ready to, shake hands and start, partnerships left and right. Let's help each other out. And then now you're seeing this bear market, even though it's kind of, ups and downs, but almost seems like it's a lot more cutthroat these days. And, I don't want to teach you anything. I don't want to share anything with you. I'm the best. Or, someone posts something. I see it all the time on social media. They're like, yeah, I have this available if you need it. And then someone else is immediately like, oh, I have it too for this much price less. And it's like, aren't we supposed to all be trying to, help each other out and make this kind of ecosystem? Instead, it's just kind of a animal world.
No, I 100% agree with that. Like the energy of going to Bitcoin Miami 22 and, some moments before then when we were in a bull market, it's exactly like you're saying. Everyone was very open, very friendly, and just preaching this idea of cohesion, and we all need to work together and we need to figure it out. It quickly turned into, the bear market energy of people being like, I'm the one with the skills. I'm the one you want. Part of that, it seems like it's a marketing kind of ploy. Like you want to say the things that people want to hear. So maybe in a lot of ways it's psychological and people are showing their true colors when they're saying things like, I'm the only one who can repair it, or keeping it close like that. So I really appreciate, that you are trying to break some of that stigma, and, you're very well aware of it. I think a lot of us are in the industry. And yeah, I think the only way we can kind of combat that is creating these resources and these pools, Telegram groups where people can communicate and be open. The secretive feeling is understood. It's very much a part of crypto and Bitcoin in general. You keep your keys close. You hold your personal belongings close. But kind of like we're saying here, it's just not going to result in enough work being passed around properly. I did have a question. I don't know if you got to see, I think ASIC Exchange, they talked about a mining disrupt, and they actually had the company there. And it's this giant assembly line machine that can apparently pull off every ASIC chip and put brand new ones on. And it's got, the ability to test exactly, where the voltage drop is happening and whatnot. I guess I just wanted some more validity. Is that something that is actually is it real? Does it work? Do you know much about this machine?
They call them pick and place machines. I mean, that's how they build a lot of these circuit boards that we see everywhere. So yeah, it is possible. Know a little of ASIC exchange myself, so yeah, definitely a lot of big players that are seeming to come out of the woodworks as well. A lot of them, say that they've been doing this for a very long time, or they have technicians that are all these certified and that certified. And I really don't know. From my personal experience, there's not many facilities out there that actually can do high volume properly. They're all jumping over, dollars to make dimes kind of thing, pushing other clients out of the way, and taking several months to even get to the board, if they even get to it at all. And now you're seeing a lot of people making it to where it's like a huge MOQ. You can't send it to me unless you got 100 units. Sorry. That leaves a lot of the people that the whole reason for Bitcoin, we all started in our garage, running that one miner, trying to figure it out. And that's what just kind of I want to help keep that kind of going and spread that around. So that way, our sons and daughters will eventually, get their own home and buy their first Bitcoin miner and plug it in their garage. And next thing you know, they're the big, Micro Strategy or, Marathon or Riot or whoever else, So we all started from that and built our way up. So I think we need to make sure we stick with those kind of roots instead of, I don't know.
No, yeah. It's the humble beginnings. It should always be reminded. What is like a pleb supposed to do in a situation like this? What is your best like resource to vet, a repair company? Are a lot of people SOL, or do you have
something that I'm actually trying to do some work on right now? So I've been creating kind of a ASIC network. I'm trying to get a lot of these facilities to work at least somewhat together. So I'm going to be starting to go around, actually, if you will, grade these facilities. So we'll go out there and check out their facility, see exactly what they do, what they offer. Repair facility, for example. What are you doing? Are you doing any deep cleaning? Or are you just doing straight up, we repair? You only do Bitmain, or can you do what's miner too? Or, you do hosting, how much are you charging? Do you have your own repair staff on site, or do you and all third party shipping it out? All those kind of nitty gritty factors that you don't really hear too much from those facilities, let alone, what kind of questions to ask. And so, we can go out there and kind of give them a scale on the different facets that they're trying to provide, and then kind of give them pinpoints on how they can increase those portions or facets in their industry to help them grow and support and supply products and services, to basically the end user.
Is this something have you started this yet, or?
Somewhat. We've been collecting a lot of people who've been wanting to join the network. So we've been collecting all people's information and just kind of creating a good list. Hopefully that'll be available to the public shortly. But eventually, we're going to be building this up to actually going out and, any of those facilities that are willing to let us go in there with a camera and kind of see what, behind the scenes, what's actually going on. Is it, a hut in the back with no walls that they're plugging the miner into, and, they got, throwing the other ones out the door or whatever, go there and actually see what they're doing and what their processes entail. Because every shop's different, every facility is different. And so getting to know exactly what they're doing and how their processes are definitely is important to be able to weigh, the pros and cons between, should I go with this facility or that facility? Definitely could be a big game changer.
Yeah, no, I think so too. what's like one horror story? Do you have like one moment that you went into a place and you were like, I can't believe what's going on here?
Good majority of them, unfortunately. Surprised, even some of the big corporations, they don't even have their own repair staff. Like, how are they even diagnosing their miners? I have no idea. Just sending it off to other third parties, and those third parties are then, taking 6 months to a year before they even get back. So then I can only imagine, it's really all the havoc that's really being caused through that whole, broken down kind of supply chain. But horror stories, I don't know. I've seen quite a bit of things plugged in, running on the floor and putting, probably say one of the most common things that people do, even the big facilities, which makes no sense, is that they take, a water curtain, basically a swamp cooler, if you will, and they take that swamp cooler and they put it directly in front of the miners. So they're basically spitting water right into the miners. Of course, it's cooling them down, so, that's good, but they're causing, a huge chance of not only corrosion, but, short circuiting. And they're using tap water, not filtering the water. So then their water curtains are going to get clogged within the next, 6 months or so. And just all the little things add up for sure.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it's kind of all over the place. It's not just the operations of the facility in terms of how are they structurally, designing this. It's also down to the safety issues. That's pretty alarming. When you think of pubcos, you think, okay, well, this is a certain amount of legitimacy. These people are taking the public's money, they're working with it. They're looking to expand on the millions, that they're investing and making. It's pretty alarming to hear that, they could be missing some of these really, really base level flaws, in their operation. So it also sounds like you're not only spending time working on boards and repairing ASICs, but you seem to do consulting of kind of a lot of variations. Is that something that you market when you're traveling?
Bit, yeah, a little bit. Mostly do a lot of training, but I do a lot of consulting as well. So I can go out there and help everything from building up operations from the bare bones from scratch, all the way to taking a look at your facility and seeing what can be changed here, little tweaks there that can at least make some major differences. But yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about kind of just like self-education and kind of working on repairing as an individual. Earlier you mentioned that, a good place to start is just buying a bad board, working on a bad board, and kind of wrapping your head around it. What are some of like the basic tools that, one should have if they're looking to begin diagnosing and repairing?
Definitely going to need a multimeter. So get a multimeter. Definitely would recommend like the Fluke 15B Plus multimeters, because it's kind of what I've been teaching on, and a lot of people use that in the industry as kind of like a standard multimeter. That way, if I'm doing a reading, you'll get the somewhat of the same reading.
And a multimeter is like an interface with just like a very low level of electricity running through it, so that you can test these points, or what exactly?
Just tests this for like voltages and different things like resistance, to be able to go from like point A to point B and see, what's going on between those 2 points to help you kind of diagnose and help troubleshoot it further.
And that's where you're looking like for those voltage readings, like 0.8, to here, 1.8 to there.
Yeah, being able to use it to, even just test your power supply voltage, for example. Yeah, a few other tools. Variable power supply would be another good one. Yeah, a lot of this stuff's pretty basic tools. Solder flux, tweezers, heat gun, all basic stuff. Yeah, even being able to do basic troubleshooting and being able to repair it, not only, mostly doing it remotely is kind of how I like to teach, because honestly, you want to keep it as far away from the repair bench as possible. If at all possible, you don't want that thing even touching the bench.
Gotcha.
There's always that chance, just like even surgery, there's always a chance that you might not, come out. So that's why being able to go in there and, looking in the firmware, updating firmware, using different kinds of firmware, seeing what's going on behind the scenes, checking kernel logs and stuff like that. Just even a basic understanding can make a huge difference.
Sure. So it's almost like, the moment that you have to put that board under stress, it needs to be necessary. Like if you're just putting that board under stress and testing it and running electricity through it, on the workbench, like you might either damage something onto the board or damage yourself.
Yeah, that's always a possibility.
What about testers? We hear a lot about testers. Everyone's always looking to sell you the tester. What is the functionality of the tester and its importance in ASIC repair?
Well, when I first started, I actually used just a regular control board with stock firmware. So I'd literally go there and hit the restart button. Of course, back then, the hash boards didn't get so hot that it would start frying all the chips if you didn't, cool it down fast enough. But, I just created my own little fan deck and did the testing. Sorry, we were going with the question there. But
I was just wanting to kind of explain some of these components in more layman's terms.
Yeah, so as far as testers, they're used to kind of run voltage through the hash board itself. That way you can test different test points and try to, pinpoint exactly where, I call it a suspect, might be, trying to find that actual culprit, and hopefully, you do eventually replace the right component or do the right thing to it. Yeah, the testers, they're all different. They all do different things. Not a single one does the same. I try to be as unbiased as possible when it comes just about, everything. So even with like the testers, one of them, can do this, one of them can do that. So you just kind of want to see exactly what best fits you. Maybe you might need one that's like cheaper, or maybe you want to be a little more diversified, have more tools in the arsenal. You're working on one hash board and find out that, you can't figure it out. So you put it on another jig and now you find something that you weren't seeing from the other one. Some are faster, some are a little slower. Some have to be connected to the internet. Some have to be, hooked up directly through Wi-Fi. Some are standalone. Some can test power supplies. Some can't. Some are only Bitmain only. Some what's miner only. Some do all makes and models. Some do some models. And,
where is the universality in all of this? Like, in your opinion, why is it all so, like almost like scattered, it seems like?
Just kind of difficult, especially since like there's so many different models, let alone manufacturers. So each hash board runs differently than the next. So creating that kind of thing and making it a little bit more user friendly as well. Yeah, I mean, they even have manufacturers have their own test fixtures as well. So you have that choice of doing, manufacturer or third party, or use them both. Ironically enough, none of the testers does exactly what the manufacturer tester does, which is like a full nonce test. So the only way that you can do a full, what's called a PT2 test, you can only do that with the manufacturer's test jig. So some of them do somewhat of the same thing, but they don't do fully what that does.
And what is like a full PT2 test? What does that all entail?
So they separated it. So you have like PT1, which is like just find the ASICs. Basically just sends a signal, hey, are all you guys there? Yeah, we're all here. And then you have PT2, which does that. But once it does find all of them, then it's like, okay, let's pump some amps through this thing. Let's like really stress test it. And then it spits out like what's called a nonce. So it's in essence, it's kind of like performance, like its level of performance. And so that PT2 just kind of shows you which chip is performing at what level. And that way you can know, okay, well, it will still hash, but it failed PT2. That's just kind of what it does, is it kind of shows you exactly which chips are performing at what kind of level.
That's getting to like a little bit more like advanced kind of work.
Yeah, you normally would use that. A lot of shops will just skip that and they'll just go straight to age testing. But if it fails age testing, then you can bring it back and put it on the PT2 test and see, okay, maybe this one chip is causing that frequency kind of issue.
That's all great stuff. I mean, I've only been in this industry working and learning and taking for about 16 months. And for me personally, it started off as just like wanting to learn more about finance and exactly like why Bitcoin, why crypto, is a more pragmatic solution compared to the fiat system, compared to the banking systems that we have. But it quickly developed into kind of a love and appreciation for wanting to learn it all. So I'm always humbled when I get to sit down and talk to someone who is really, knee deep into what it is that they're doing. And when it comes to repair, I just think that we just need so much more education, so much more communication. So even if a lot of these things are flying over my head, I'm hoping that they're also creating the sparks that are being created in my head, which is, well, now I want to go and learn more. And definitely appreciate you sharing your expertise and kind of talking through some of these things. What's something that you're looking kind of to just like keep? What's something that you're looking to ride in the future and kind of push the momentum towards in the ASIC repair industry?
Ooh, just kind of trying to make this kind of a more equal playing ground, if you will, in the industry. It's actually kind of the main reason I got into this field. It incorporates a lot of ability to kind of get to that financial freedom, kind of per se. It definitely already leveled the playing field. Now you're seeing a lot of big players come in, which is kind of making it not so fair. So that's pretty much the main reason that, I even got into this is I want to make sure that, Bitcoin in itself is going to be what it should be for my kids and their kids. So yeah, I've just been trying to create this really big ecosystem within the industry and be able to help, supply all the different facets that are kind of needed, and kind of make sure that's more safe, because we're getting very scarily close to an ability for these huge facilities to be able to do what's called a 51% attack. In fact, it already happened with Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. So it's very theoretically possible for it to happen with Bitcoin.
Could you elaborate more into the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, the 51% attack?
Yeah, so someone, I don't even know if they even figured out who, but someone or some people figured out that they had enough hash power at the time to mine Satoshi Vision and change what the outcome was. Because once you have a good majority of the mining ability, you can tell your computers, okay, your Bitcoin is now in my wallet. That's pretty much what happened with the Satoshi Vision. There just wasn't enough miners protecting the network at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting to where we have these huge facilities that have, thousands and thousands of machines. What's preventing them from teaming up together and, easily doing that? Same thing. That's pretty much why I don't like to recommend, this pool or that firmware. If everybody is using the same pool and the same firmware and is mining on the same exact miner, and they're using the same internet, and it's just a matter of time before someone can easily just figure out how to hack that little easy system, and there goes everybody's Bitcoin. So
yeah, there's definitely this, you unraveled a really good point there. I'm over here asking, why is this complex? Why isn't this universal? Why isn't this centralized? Well, maybe we don't want it all centralized. Maybe that's the entire point. You also hit on something that I personally dislike as well, which is pubco mining facilities. I'm worried about it for the same reason. People mention, oh, it's fine, as long as one pool doesn't have more than 50, doesn't have 51% of the control. But it's beyond that. When you look at these companies that are, with insane amounts of hash rate power, and you look at how much Bitcoin they're producing, you also have to look at what they are in terms of being a burden to the network. How many companies have we seen in the last 6-7 months that have had to file for bankruptcy? They all took out giant loans. They couldn't pay the loans. Now they have to default. They have to sell machines. It creates more competition when it does, because ultimately I feel like Bitcoin wrecks you if you get to a certain point. It's kind of like the Icarus effect. A lot of these companies are flying really close to the sun and thinking that they're going to be, strong enough to survive that. It is something that really concerns me, though. And I would like to see it, kind of like you're saying, come back down to the pleb level. When you talk about Bitcoin 9, 10, 11 years ago, you're talking about kids with computers mining off of USB sticks and stuff. Ultimately, if you're trapped in this institutional kind of corporate idea of Bitcoin, we might lose exactly what Bitcoin is supposed to be for.
Yeah, it's actually getting kind of sad where it's coming to, because you're seeing to the point where, in order to, like, just a regular person wants to start mining Bitcoin. Well, in order to be profitable, they have to go and spend thousands of dollars on a machine, and then they go plug it in to find out that their electricity rate isn't low enough, and now they're not able to be profitable. So now they just spent thousands of dollars on a useless machine that they can't plug in because they're going to be at a loss. then you have these bigger facilities that have access to the cheaper power. So then they're the ones mining all the Bitcoin, not leaving it available for, decentralized other people.
Yeah, it's alarming. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. Maybe people just want to focus on the hype and adoption and pushing forward. But yeah, these are definitely some things to keep an eye out for. Being a little bit more mindful of our time here, and did have a couple more questions for you. I know we've touched on it a bit, but I just wanted to kind of ask you when you first, discovered crypto, from your perspective, it wasn't just Bitcoin. Like you mentioned, it was Doge, it was other ideas. What was it about crypto and Bitcoin that first time that really clicked for you, that really had you fascinated?
It's kind of the whole cycle of how Bitcoin kind of works, I guess. Most people, when they first even hear or think about it, they look at it like it's, a stock. Like, I'm going to buy it low and sell it high. It's a stock. And then, even though it's technically a currency, so that's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. From there, you're starting to figure out, okay, you can do mining, for example. So you go and you buy some units, and it's basically like buying, the stock at a discount in a sense, if you do it right. And then you go in even further, and then you have the companies that are like supplying, the spot for you to plug it in, or selling you the miner, or, teaching you how to fix it, or so I don't know, just the whole ability as well, how it just has so many different facets, like that it's endless. You want a job, like you have a job. There's so many different avenues that need to be filled in this industry. It's ridiculous. I don't think there's enough of us.
Yeah.
Especially even though it's, especially the repair side of it's completely transferable to all other kind of electronic repair. So after learning how to do, ASIC repair, I can go crack open a TV and be like, oh, I know what that is. I know what that is. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like for you, it was just, it was everything, and how it kind of all ties in together. And I think ultimately that's where most of us are in this long journey. It's like a self-discovery journey. And the more you dive into one aspect of it, the more you realize how it's all interconnected. And then you take a step back from that, outside of the industry itself, and you realize it's not the industry, it's the world that's actually connected this way. So when you hear people kind of like make these outrageous statements that Bitcoin can fix this and Bitcoin can solve that, they're not just like blowing it out of, like hot air. There, like you're saying, there is a deeper understanding and a connection to all of it. So I definitely relate in a lot of ways to what you're saying. It was one thing after the other, and kind of just wanting to get this bigger understanding of it all. You also mentioned that this is something, repairing ASICs is something that is applicable to anyone who's kind of working on electronics. Do you see any like move towards bringing in people from other kind of like tech industries, other kind of like electronic repair industries? Do you see a push towards that in ASIC repair?
You're actually seeing a lot of that happening right now. Bunch of different kind of shops, cell phone repair shops, even auto repair shops are getting into this. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Even our military is getting in on it. So
yeah, everyone is secretly Bitcoin's biggest hater and their biggest fan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's on the agenda for you? Do you have any more courses coming up that you're going to be working on?
I've been working on a online course for quite a while now. Getting pretty close to getting that released. We're also doing a more advanced level training coming up.
That's here in Milwaukee?
Correct.
Nice.
I'm also open to try to open up a lot more of these kind of shops. And we're trying to work with a lot of the different facilities to make it happen. I'm also getting, or I have available a lot of the equipment and tools, materials, rework stations, kind of like starter kits available. I'm also getting a lot of the parts stockpiled. So I'm getting a lot of the lists together for all the different makes and models of boards and making it really easy. So that way, if you want to work on like a S19, for example, you can come and just buy this kit. So that's some other stuff I've been working on. And same thing with the network as well. So just trying to get a list of all the main vendors that are, willing to, say that they're, in business and just try to connect all the dots for everybody. It can be really frustrating. I don't understand why there's people that are, mining over in, let's say, California, and they're shipping it over to Florida when there's, like several technicians available there locally that have availability. And yet the ones, not saying over there is booked out, but just as an example.
Sure.
So they're waiting for months for it to ship and then months for it to get fixed. And then who knows if they'll even see it. So same thing with buying equipment. It's really difficult to know where to go or if it's even safe. You're thinking you're getting a deal. It sounds legit. And the next thing you know, your money's gone and you're like screwed. So it's definitely a lot of dark and shady individuals and companies out there that, hopefully we can make it a little more light to that and make it a little bit more of a safe environment for everybody.
I agree. We can't just rely on, hardware market verification. Things like that, are susceptible to attacks as well. You see a lot of impersonators in the industry. And it's really great to hear that you're thinking about that as well, that it's not just something tied directly to, like a ASIC salesman or something. It's, we're all aware that these are issues that we need to fix. And I'm with you. It's up to all of us to kind of get that moving. Is there a place where our audience can kind of keep up with you and keep up with your courses and all the work you're doing?
Yeah, you can find me on just about any social media. I'm still using my old handle, Crypto Miner CHR. I'm also on Twitter. You can kind of follow me that way. Also, another best way to get a hold of me has always been a phone call. I get so many messages every day, so going through them all, I try to do the best I can, but sometimes I miss messages or don't really have time to get back. So yeah, just a regular good old phone call works good for me.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely make sure to throw your links in the video and as well as the audio versions, just so that our audience can reach out and keep in touch. One more time, I just wanted to express my gratitude. Super thankful to have you on here, Austin. And yeah, looking forward to what's in store for the future. Wishing you luck on your endeavors and to future success.
Definitely glad to be here.